Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hobby Hotline Overtime. This is episode 216. I'm Logan Ward, and I'm joined by Herman and Uncle Rich. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing
It's
great.
almost 80 degrees in Dallas today, so I'm doing just fine.
Wow.
We were 50 and raining.
And we're getting that in a couple of days, Herman. So I understand.
Yeah.
Hey, we're headed toward 70s the next 2 days.
Yeah, we hit 70 today here in Memphis. I think we were just a couple degrees off of an all-time record. So yeah, that's pretty warm.
Yeah, I mean we're just what 3 weeks out from having 7-degree weather here, and now we're talking about 70s.
I know Logan and I actually collected in the 70s.
Dag nabbit.
However, I collected in the 60s and he didn't, so he's younger.
I didn't collect in the 60s. Rich has got me beat on that one. I found out he started collecting in 68, and I didn't start till 71.
Do you still have the first card you got from a pack?
No, I don't. Now, I've replaced it since then, but I do not.
I've done the same thing because those cards are long gone, but I can still know what cards I had. 68 third series. And if you're going to begin, you get a series that has Mantle in it, and Orlando Cepeda, the MVP in 67. I think Juan Marichal was in there, and Killebrew was in there, and Yastrzemski was in there coming off the Triple Crown year. And for some reason, that series was just loaded with stars and superstars. Oh, and card 247 was this little two-player rookie card. One of them was Ron Tompkins. The other turned out to be some guy named Johnny Bench.
Yeah, I like that Ron Tompkins rookie card.
Yeah, it's a pretty good card.
It's pretty good. Yeah, in 71, I remember the first pack I got a Pete Rose. I think that was Series 1.
It is Series 1.
And that was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time. We were all Big Red Machine fans, so that was like gold when you hit that. You know, that and him and Johnny Bench.
Well, 71 was we didn't know what the black borders would be. You know, I'm sure to you that was probably perfectly normal, and it was normal to me as an 11-year-old too.
Yeah, it was normal. I mean, of course, I remember going. Actually, what had happened is the kids next door had bought some cards, and I saw them, and I got my dad to take me to Woolworths and bought a couple packs for a nickel a piece. So I still can remember that. It's just one of those things that's ingrained in my brain.
And we have this young buck named Herman who's not even born till 72. But by the way, congratulations. You finished your 72 setup, I believe, if I remember correctly.
I did. Yeah, I finished it up. What's it been, about 3 or 4 months ago now?
I would tell you to do the football set, except those high numbers will drive you up a tree.
Yes, they will.
Well, the baseball high numbers about did.
Well, if you think the baseball high numbers are tough, wait till you try the football high numbers.
No, I'll stick with the baseball.
Okay.
Now I've already got people in my ear telling me I need to go for the master set on the 72s.
72 master sets, like 5 variations. It'll put you back like $10. That's not really as big as an issue as like 68 variations. It turned out some
three of them is just like a color variation on the Cubs card, right?
Your variations are checklist variations that nobody really cares about, and then the Cubs, other than Bo, nobody cares about those cards. The the green, for the 4 players, and Jim Hickman 535, and
I actually picked up 2 of those, the color variations on the Cubs, but I don't know. I'm happy with having the regular set completed, and if I get them, I'll get them. If I don't, I don't feel
that's quite an accomplishment, seriously, nowadays, to finish affordably a 72 set. And DR brings up something we want to talk about on a different level. So pull up DR's comment. It's not 90 Leaf we want to talk about, but we want everybody in the audience's comments on a card Brian Gray and Leaf put out this week.
Yes. yesterday I got an email yesterday from Leaf, and it was a card of Damar Hamlin. Here's the card. I'll put it up real quick, and it said, and I've got the text from the email. It said that he was going to have, I think. Let me get rid of the banner real quick. See if I can do it. I'm sorry. I'm having a little technical issues there. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to have 210 serial numbered cards, and then they're going to have some unsigned cards as well. And one of the things that struck me about this email was that they were going to make a donation to charity, which that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I think they, in my opinion, I think they could have, worded it a little bit better, and maybe saying, "Hey, all proceeds go to charity" or something like that. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I've shared with you before we went on, Logan, that I'm in the same wheelhouse as you as far as I feel like that's not really a situation that a business should be trying to profit off of. I mean, if he's willing to donate all proceeds to this charity or this foundation, then great, But if you're looking at donating a percentage of your profits, then I just don't. Personally, I don't feel like that's the way to go in a situation like this.
Yeah,
a slight defense of Brian on this is that you still have to pay to produce the cards. You have to pay for the image if you're paying somebody. There are costs, especially for a one card set. So a percent is okay. You don't want to say all proceeds because you want to at least recoup what you put into it. I mean, if I spend $5,000, I'd like to get my $5,000 back. I know Brian can afford it, but that's a different subject. But then you can say if you get 50,000, 45,000 can go to his foundation, which went from trying to get $2,500 from a GoFundMe to having millions available. He'll be doing a lot of good for people.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's kind of where I was going with it.
I mean, they showed the photo of him organizing the toy drive when he was still in college.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously, and from what we've read, his heart is in the right place at all times.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was saying. Well, I may have worded it different, but I mean, from a business standpoint, get your money back out of it, but then anything beyond that should go to the foundation. If you're going to use his likeness and his situation to sell these cards. And another thing that me and Logan was talking about beforehand is this something that he's worked out with Damar ahead of time to where he's signing the cards or he's signing I think you said it was sticker autos, Logan?
Yes, sticker autos.
Yeah, are these autos that he's already had on hand, or has he's had some redone since then for this, or?
I would guess that there are some sitting still at Leaf headquarters.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well, probably. Yeah, Dan, he says that I personally think that it's poor taste by Leaf trying to capture attention, and it seems awkward to me to profit off prayers. Even if they donate all the money, they are still profiting from the brand. And, I'd have to pretty much agree with that.
Another thing about Brian is Brian pushes the envelope at all times. And for example, sometimes it's good and sometimes it can be a little bit, tricky. It can be a little bit, problematic. But last week we talked about Herman's boy, Stetson Bennett. Leaf has cards of him. Leaf has signed cards of him.
Mm-hmm.
The word I was looking for was controversial. I also mentioned that I didn't remember her name, this blonde bombshell gymnast. Sure enough, when we looked it up, Leaf had signed cards of her. Mm-hmm. Brian is very good at pushing, and it gets his team to push the envelope. And that's to his credit. But as we say, sometimes you push it so far, you end up going controversial.
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter, and I saw a tweet from him last night. He said his account is Leaf CEO, and he said he was taking that account, I guess, from a business type account to a personal account. So I don't know what all transpired to make that happen. I don't know if he got a lot of negative press or a lot of negative comments about it, but I thought that was kind of strange that he was going to take that to a personal account now.
Well, I don't know. He just posted something 2 hours ago. So if he's changed, he came back later.
Well, who knows with Brian? We all know how Brian is. You're right. He does push it. Couple more comments here. Ben the Bagel, poor business decision, too much PR risk to get a small portion of the proceeds. Yeah, I just think it was too soon. Honestly, in my opinion, it was just too soon. Maybe if he did this a little bit later and had some kind of PR ahead of it, saying, "Hey, I'm going to release this card. I'm going to give all proceeds to charity." Maybe it would have gone over a little bit better, but I think the timing was just not right at this moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he went private and came back public.
Oh, he did?
Well, I mean, as I said, if I'm pulling up his comments, he's obviously he's saying things. So and I can read the comments in the last 24 hours. So I think he got a little bit of shambolic discussion and realized he had to pull back for a while because a lot of people had a visceral reaction to what he did. And again, on a business level, as we say, it's also, we had the same issue 2 weeks ago when it came out about, selling the autographs. What point do you start selling autographs? At that time, we didn't know he was going to make the great recovery.
Right.
When do you start selling autographs? If you have somebody, if you put out the autograph before he got hurt, you put it out on a Sunday and he gets hurt on Monday night, that's not on you because that's
right.
Normal collecting. If you change it to say, Monday night incident, but at least you had it out before. But if you put it out like Tuesday morning, it's like you're taking advantage. And there are gradations. And so I understand. I mean, and I agree with Facebook user. It is a business. He's trying to make money. I mean, and he's trying, and if he really ends up with 100% of the profits going to that foundation, then that's perfectly fine.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that part of it. You're talking about listing things. It was very ironic. Back in 2001, I had some Dale Earnhardt things listed on eBay, and then during that time period is when he got killed at Daytona, and I ended up taking them down because I just didn't want to try to profit off of anything bad that had happened, because I was actually at that race, and it was a terrible time. But yeah, that was there was a lot of people that did try to profit on it. I remember there was like over 100,000 listings for Dale Earnhardt things back in 2001 on eBay. It was crazy.
Logan, what was it like being in the crowd, seeing the car hit the wall like that?
Well, we were watching the race. Of course, it was the final lap, and we saw the cars coming around out of turn 4, and suddenly Dale Earnhardt got hit by Sterling Marlin. He hit the wall. We've seen wrecks a lot worse than that. None of us at the time thought that it was that bad of a wreck, but the fact that it took them so long to get him out of the car and the way that they were kind of frantic, and then they threw a blue tarp over the car, kind of gave us question that something was really bad, and unfortunately it was.
My other question is, I've heard, because usually the wrecks look worse, but if you bounce off the wall, you're actually in better shape. He didn't bounce off the wall. It stuck.
Yeah, it pretty much stuck, and his seatbelt broke, and I think his head went forward, hit the – I think I'm not exactly sure exactly what all happened to him, but I think his head hit the steering wheel, and there were some other things. So he had a lot of trauma. It was not good. It was not good.
And the next week is when they introduced the Hans device, wasn't it?
I think so. I think they introduced that head and neck restraint. It was not mandatory, and I think a few weeks later they made it mandatory for all the drivers.
Yeah, and and thankfully there's not been a NASCAR fatality since then.
No, we've been very fortunate, and I'm very thankful.
I mean, when NASCAR first started, you almost didn't get out. If you got out alive, you were really good or really lucky.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a lot of safety back in the 50s, 60s, and even in the 70s. There just wasn't a lot of innovations. And then it's unfortunate that it takes somebody of Dale Earnhardt's stature to get killed for them to really do something about it. That was, to me, the sad part.
Rich Frank has a good question.
Yep. Do you believe people that buy at the time are trying to turn a profit in the future? I don't know. I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of times you're going to lose. But anyway, he's coming to the conclusion: let people buy at that time. That way, they get the products. Well, that's true.
I don't think that everybody that buys in that moment is necessarily. Not to say that none of them are, but I don't think that everybody that does is trying to do it for a profit. A lot of times, it takes something like that to draw attention to somebody, and people just want it to have.
If I'm a Bills fan, I may just want that card as a collectible.
Right, have it as a memory.
Yeah, I may not care if I ever sell it.
Right,
and that would be one of these cards you don't sell. So there is that too, and I'll wager that Panini and anybody else will start doing cards soon of Hamlin.
Yeah, oh yeah, they will be. But yeah, I mean, for me, like if like when Dale Earnhardt died, I don't think I really bought a lot of things, of him, but because I already had enough things to remember him by. I even had this fire suit even before he passed away, and I didn't buy anything, but I couldn't believe how crazy eBay went. I think that's the craziest, except for maybe when Kobe passed. All the people listing things about Kobe. That was a bad deal.
I am going to claim the statute of limitations because I've told the story and I'm telling it on myself. Thurman Munson died on a Thursday afternoon, August 2nd, 1979. I knew a flea market where all his cards were a quarter each. You better darn well believe, because I knew what the market was going to do, and I didn't understand at the time. Financially, it was a great decision. But 40 years later, I'm thinking maybe I should have let somebody else do all that. I bought like 200 Munson cards that weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good money. It was, it made me good money over the years. But, is it something I should have done? Because I knew it was going to be a profit. He was beloved in New York.
Yes.
I was starting to do shows. It's a natural thing. And, for the next few years at Yankee Stadium, when they would go through in the bottom of the sixth inning as the grounds crew is doing the field, they would do these Yankee highlights of, all the great players. And the guy who got the biggest cheer for the next 5-6 years was Munson, which is how popular he was as a player. For Herman, somebody like Freddie Freeman right now, I guarantee you, and I don't wish that on anybody, I guarantee you if something happened and they did a Freddie Freeman tribute, for the next few years, he'd get rousing applause every time they put him on the scoreboard.
Well, Bo's got a good point here. I think people buying players upon their death are overcome by FOMO. And I think there's a lot of that. It's like, oh my gosh, if I don't buy it now, maybe I'll never get it. So there is a fear of missing out.
Well, that's the same thing. You was talking about the Earnhardt stuff. That's the way a lot of people felt about his stuff after he passed away. You hear everybody running around buying up Earnhardt stuff, talking about, in a year from now you won't even be able to get it. But it seems like now there's more Earnhardt stuff out now than there was then.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but Panini doesn't have a Dale Earnhardt senior contract, so there's been no cards for many years. That's one of their holy grails right now, is to get Dale back on cards.
Yeah, but I was thinking more of like just memorabilia in general. But yeah, you're right.
Kid, wait, Logan has a Earnhardt fire suit? Yes, it's right there. I'm touching it. he loves Dale Earnhardt too. So he'll have to come up to Memphis sometime and check it out.
When he comes to the Dallas Card Show, he's looking, Kin comes looking for Earnhardt cards he does not have, or Earnhardt memorabilia, or other really old racing cards that are almost impossible to find.
Yeah, he's amassed a nice little collection. I'm impressed. I like his other comment here. Goes, well, this is a trio. Yeah.
So I think we're pretty much in agreement that it was Brian pushed the envelope and probably popularly not the best decision he ever made.
Agreed. That was not a good decision. I just think it was too soon. It's kind of like what you were talking about with the statute of limitations. Give it a little bit, let everybody kind of get back to normal, and kind of preface it a little bit about saying, hey, we're gonna do this, and just kind of let it go slowly, I guess is what I'm trying to say, instead of just putting out an email blast and saying, hey, guess what we're gonna have the Maher Hamlin autograph cards. So.
And we're doing a percentage, not the whole thing, to not all the profits.
Yeah, we're doing a donation.
A donation can be $1, it could be $100,000.
Yep.
That's exactly what Herman and I were talking about before we started the show.
Okay, so let's go on to a slightly happier topic, because I was there this weekend. So let's talk about and other things relating to shows, what a collector's dream.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the Dallas Card Show a little bit. I know that's one of the premier card shows now in the country, and you were there, of course, this weekend with ComC. Rich, how'd it go?
It exceeded our expectations, and the show exceeded everybody's expectations. There may have been a few less dealers. There may have been a few less corporates. But, I work with Angela and Stefan at the ComC table / booth. And Angela on Thursday night said, what card recession? What recession are we talking about? And the show was basically sizzling the entire weekend. And we doubled our expectations. And, I had dealers tell me, because I ask a few who I know will tell me straight up how things are going, and I have a couple dealers that do basically modern baseball, and they usually tell me November and January are their two slowest shows because baseball season's not going on. They both, and they're in the same table location, and they're carrying. I want to say they're carrying the same cards, but they're carrying the same general setup. And they said they both had among their best shows ever. And other people were telling me they had some of the best shows they ever had. We hit my goal, which is better than what the ComC goal was. And we just, everybody seemed happy. And when everybody seems happy at a show, that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Was the collector, was there a lot of buyers and stuff there? You say it was a great show. I know you obviously they sold out as far as dealers, but it's
if obviously there were buyers, because the dealers are going to let you know if they're not making money.
Yeah.
So there were plenty of buyers. The only downside, and this Kyle and his team had no control over, they raised the price of parking in the hotel from $5 a day to $10 a day.
Ooh.
So it costs you $25 to walk into the Dallas Card Show, which means if you're going to the show, you better be serious.
Was that something they did just for that day, the day of the show?
No, the hotel raised the parking fees. Kyle has nothing to do with the hotel.
No, what I'm saying, but did the hotel do it knowing the show was there, or does that pretty much remain?
No, they raised it because the show was there.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's not good.
No, it's not bad. It's not good. It is, as I said, what it does when it's that expensive. And again, this is not really controllable because inflation has hit everything, including what the hotel wants to charge for the parking garage. because they want to make money. They're making money hand over fist already anyway. Saturday night, the cheapest room at the hotel was $280. So the hotel's doing just fine. So they're very happy with Kyle. They should be giving him the rooms, just saying, we're making so much money. The heck, here's the rooms for free. Yeah, and I'm exaggerating, and I happen to know he's getting a pretty good rate on the room. So I'm exaggerating a little because I know the person who helped negotiate the terms. So without getting too much inside baseball, it's not bad. But the point is that the hotel is doing just fine. Their restaurants are doing just fine. Their snack bars are doing just fine. Their bar is doing just fine. They're guaranteed selling out hotel rooms, 25 nights a year. Not just selling out, but selling out at higher prices. So they're doing fine.
So our other Rich wants to know, what type of buyers were you seeing there?
Well, as I said, if here's $25, what you're not seeing are the guys hitting the dime boxes. There were some good quarter boxes at the show, but my friend who I buy a lot of stuff from the dime box said he only had one or two of his normal regulars buy stuff from him through his dime box. So the collecting was good, but it was a level above where it normally is. So maybe, instead of somebody who carries dime boxes, it went to quarter boxes. And then from there.
Well, were you seeing a lot of people trying to unload, like collectors coming in trying to sell to dealers? Was there a lot of that, or was it the other way around where you saw more dealers selling to the sellers?
Almost nothing. I see very little. I did not even remember. I am in the Starlight room. The Starlight room is not the main room. We do not get Pelican case people for the most part walking into the Starlight room. So I don't see the $thousands activity that you get in the main room.
Right.
We are a 150 table card show. We're a subset of the big show, but it's a big show. But it's almost like a traditional old show. I sometimes call it the FOK room, Friends of Kyle.
Yeah. I like the Starlight room. It's a more intimate setting.
Before the show, I like it. I can hold the stuff for you in my office, or Ange and Steph can hold it for you. We can hold it for you. You don't have to come to the show to give it. You don't. I will tell you point blank. You don't have to come to the show to give us stuff for ComC. You can give it to me beforehand.
That's awful nice of you, Rich.
What?
Let's see, a few more comments here. Here's Chris. He says $25 just to get into the door. What is this, the National?
And yet somebody else pointed out there was a West Palm Beach, a collector's dream pointed out there was a West Palm Beach show, and it was $20 to get in there. And that was advertised as a 400 table show. So I'd like to know how many tables a collector's dream really thinks were in the West Palm Beach show. And I heard that there wasn't a lot of vintage at the show. It was mainly new cards. So I'd like him to post a little something. If he wants to call in about it, that's great. Post the link.
Yeah, let me post
a couple comments in the chat would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, feel free to call in, talk to us. We'd like to hear from you guys. Here's the link. So I'll leave that up for a few minutes to let people check that out.
So I haven't heard anything come out of Dallas since the show. Did I'm assuming there was no shenanigans with the backyard crew?
No, I've not heard any shenanigans. So obviously it went reasonably smoothly, thankfully. The funniest story, speaking of shenanigans, is about 4 or 5 shows ago, they caught somebody stealing cards. They escorted him out, never to be seen again. He showed up at the show. But not only did he show up at the show, but he showed up wearing the exact same clothes he did, a black mask and a black hoodie and all that, trying to be anonymous, that he wore when he was stealing all the cards. Dude, if you're doing that while stealing cards, buy some new clothes.
Yeah, no kidding. Apparently, he must be stealing from the dime box. Wow. It takes
So
all
was he escorted back out?
He was escorted back out real quick. They tried to get the cops to get him. He got out before the cops did, and he basically escorted himself out, never to be seen again during the show. Because in all seriousness, the Dallas, a couple of things, there's pros and cons about the Dallas Card Show, but there are cameras everywhere at the show. You can't take something without being caught on camera. They have more cameras at that show. They are monitoring everything. There's actually one or two people at all time keeping an eye on the cameras, looking to make sure nothing bad is going on.
Yeah, that's kudos to Kyle for implementing that technology, because that really helps. That's going to deter a lot of folks that we're thinking otherwise.
Rob, I'm not sure if ComC is going to the Culture Collision show. I have to ask our trade show manager what shows we're planning to do. I basically stay in my little cocoon, so I don't know the shows that that everybody else on the team is doing, because I'm adjacent to the team just because of where I am at Dallas and what we're doing at the Dallas Card Show.
When is the Culture Collision show?
That is a big show. I mean, Herman, if you're not that far away, from what I've heard, it's a fascinating show. They call it Culture Collision because it's not just cards, but it's a lot of the newer type of memorabilia too. I would Google it when you're done, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. A lot of the high rollers go to that show. I would definitely, depending on how far it is, at least look into going.
Depending on what part of Atlanta it's in, it's not, but maybe about an hour and a half away from me. It's actually closer than Spartanburg, and I go to Spartanburg about 3 or 4 times a year. So
Herman, he posted the dates. It's 27 to 29. I would definitely Google it when you're done and see whether it's something you want to go to.
Yeah, don't they have a lot of entertainment things? TCG, yes. Funko Pops, and those kind of things.
I think didn't they have one where they actually had people selling Snickers there too?
Yeah, yep, that's Culture Collision. That's a little bit of everything, because it's funny. I tell people I walk in Willow Bend Mall almost every morning. So today I started chatting. There's a nice young lady. She's walking around, and we're chatting a little more than usual because we're just chatting. And she's the mother of the manager and part owner of a pop culture store on the first level of Willow Bend Mall, which is doing, she says it's doing, and she says they have one in Allen at the Outlet Mall about 5-10 minutes from this office. And she said that one's killing it because it gets younger audiences and younger people coming in. So Culture Collision, I suspect, is geared more towards, let's call them 20s, 30s, 40s people, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. And you will have an interesting experience. I believe Drew from our team does. I think he will be at that show. Guesstimating.
He said he was going to be going.
Yeah, if it's, you said the 27th or 29th, if I go, I'd have to go on the 29th. I wouldn't be able to go that Saturday because, and this is for Bo and Dan, I've got a different kind of show that I've got to go to on the 28th.
What type of show?
I got to go to a chicken show.
A chicken show?
A chicken show. You're living the high life, man, with the dogs and chickens.
Yeah. They said they only show about 4 months out of the year, so it's not like a year-round thing. That's my other hobby.
And to answer Rich Frank's question, I've actually went to Frank & Sons 20, 25, 30 years ago. I've been there a few times back in the day. Back in my Beckett days, I went there. It's talking about a fascinating show. That's a fascinating show. It's in a warehouse. It's the biggest warehouse show you'll ever see.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Kind of give us an overview of that.
When I went there back in the day, and I don't know what the card relation is now, it was about 25-30% cards, but a lot of market makers in Southern California did that show. and they would have booths, and they would be there Wednesday night, if I remember correctly, and Saturdays. And they were, and they really, it was a fascinating place to be to, because and then it was a flea market. So it was like a flea market. It had a little bit of everything. And it's really a cool thing. It was just cool. A lot of these, stands were permanent, but some people would come in and out and not do it every time. So I could do about half the show. I would just walk quickly through because there may be one or two baseball card dealers in a row. And the other half of the room, I'd have to spend a lot of time in because that's where the baseball card dealers were. And the first half of the room is where most of the baseball card people were. And to answer the question about COMC and graded coins, that is above my pay grade as to what our future plans are. I find out the same way you all do. So don't ask me questions because I really don't know. So I stay in my little cocoon.
You're a little bit further down the totem pole, huh?
And I'm very happy being down the totem pole. I'm at a point in my life I don't want to be involved in anything more than I'm doing already.
Yeah. Cooter's asking if Herman is submitting chickens for grading.
Actually, we do, but they don't go into cases. They go into cages.
Wow, I had no idea anything like that existed. Okay, that's more information than I want to know.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. Yeah. We'll have to have a hobby hotline graded chicken show.
Herman, bring back your show and talk. You need to talk about the chicken show on your show. I mean, we've talked about barbecuing and grilling on your show. We need to talk about the chickens. You need to do at least one episode to come back.
Okay. So got another topic. How many of you guys watched the playoff game last night between the Cowboys and the Bucks? And what did you think about that game? Specifically, the field goals.
I was forced to because of where I live by wife and mother-in-law.
You misspoke, Logan. You meant the lack of field goals.
Okay, excuse me. The lack of extra points.
There you go. The lack of extra points.
Yeah, that was something. I was telling Herman earlier. I was watching the game and I thought, okay, he missed one, and knowing Tom Brady, that may cost him the game right there. And then he missed a second one. Like, wow, that's a safety. And then he missed a third one. I'm going, wow, now we're talking about a field goal. And lo and behold, he missed a fourth one, but luckily they were far enough ahead where it didn't matter. So it was just a wild game.
It's a good. I'm going to say this. It's a good thing in a way he missed the extra points because it validates what the NFL did a couple of years ago by moving the extra point back from the 19-yard chip shot field goal, so to speak, to the 32-yard thing where you can miss it at times. So it validates what the NFL wanted to do. Yeah,
it did make it tougher. It was interesting. I think that was a record too, if I'm not
mistaken.
It is.
Nobody's ever missed more than 3 until
that poor guy. You think he's still going to have a job?
They've already announced he'll have a job, but I suspect that if something goes wrong against San Francisco, he will not be back next year.
Yeah.
Well, they had said that they weren't concerned with it because he had done more good than bad. So it just seemed like he did all his bad in one game.
Maybe it's out of his system now, so maybe here on out he'll be all right.
But give the Cowboys credit, as terrible. And I watched the Redskins game the Commanders game. I after all these years, I still call them the Redskins. But the Commanders, they got destroyed by the Commanders the week before. A team that doesn't even come close to the playoffs. Then they go to Tampa Bay, face a team with, if not the greatest quarterback in NFL history, one that would be on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks of NFL history. Mm-hmm. And they basically demolished them. Yes, the Tampa Bay scores 2 touchdowns, basically when the game's well decided.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a question for you, Logan.
4 touchdowns and ran for a 5th one. I mean, it was as bad as he was the week before, he was as good this week.
Yeah, he looked great.
But give credit, the other things popped up in the playoffs too. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in the first half. They won the game.
Yeah, that was a train wreck at the beginning. That was hard to believe he pulled that out.
So here's a question about the game.
You throw 4 interceptions, you have -5 turnover. You win the game.
Yeah.
Herman, you're about to say something.
No, I was going to ask you, talking about the Cowboys kicker. I was going to ask who did it worse. Who was the worst player in the game? Was it him or was it Brady?
Brady didn't have a good game at all.
I wonder if Brady's actually showing his age finally.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. Did we see Tom Brady's last game, or do you think he's going to be back next year?
If I'm an NFL team, I take a chance on it. If he wants to play, I take a chance, and he wants to play for me, I take a chance. With that resume, I take the chance. It could end up good. I mean, he brought Tampa Bay, won a Super Bowl his first year there. It could end up good, or it could be Joe Namath going to the Rams at the end of his career and basically being told after like third game, "You're not playing anymore, son."
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of players in all kinds of sports that have just hung around way too long. I mean, I'll just speak from a NASCAR perspective. I love Richard Petty, but he hung around too long. He needed to have retired years earlier, and he just hung around too long. And I hope that doesn't.
There's nothing like hearing the roar of the crowd. I'm a big boxing fan. There is nothing like hearing the fans screaming for you in a crowded, when you're a super high level boxer.
Oh yeah, that's one of the ultimate highs for sure.
And that's why the players stick around, because they always think they can get back there. Very few players retire in any sport at any level retire when they should.
Jerome Bettis and Barry Sanders did it best.
Jim Brown, same way. They're 3 running backs that retired when they should have.
I mean,
John Elway wins 2 straight Super Bowls and says, "I can't do anything more," and he retires.
Yeah.
People think
Super Bowl in his hometown, and then I'm done.
People think Joe Montana didn't do that well. He led the Chiefs to a championship game. When he was there, he was better than people remember him with the Chiefs. They got further than they ever should have got.
A couple of comments here. Paige and Deanie Bean, they're laughing at you, Herman. They love you. And let's see. Chris is saying Brett Maher, the Rick and Keel of kickers. Oh, gosh. And we got Herman. Oh, he's replying back. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, cool. Here's Dan. Kickers are quirky folks. Once you get it in your head, it's hard to kick your way out of it. Yeah, in the same game. Yeah, that's true. I'm that way even in the job I do. It's like if I mess up something, it's like, wow, it's a little hard to get back to the right rhythm.
Yeah, that's the same thing Jerry said about it. Said that a lot of kicking is mental, and
it is. Yeah, and Sal Doogie, he says it was a muster night for Dak, and it was. He looked so good. I was actually very proud for them. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm even a less of a Bucs fan. So I was glad to see the Cowboys win. And let's see, here's a question from Rich Frank. Chargers do Charger things, yeah. So talking about a little bit about Tom Brady, I don't think you guys, did you answer the question? Do you think that was his last game? Do you think he'll be back? Yeah, I think Rich said he thinks people might take a chance on him.
I think he'll be back. Just like I said, he's pretty much, he made his choice this year coming back, and he's nothing else holding him back from playing another year.
No, I mean
Do I think he should? Probably not, but I think he will be.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's time for him to really ride off into the sunset. I mean, he's got a career that it's going to be hard for anybody to ever surpass anything he's done. He's done it all. So I mean, go out in a blaze of glory, man. Just go ahead and stop and just reap the rewards of what you've done and have fun with your life for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can almost say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers as well.
Yeah.
When you're hyper competitive, but I mean, as Drew pointed out last week, Aaron Rodgers, it looked like it was going to be his last game for Green Bay. Will he go somewhere else or will he retire?
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same thing for Brady. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go somewhere else? Or is he going to retire? There are still those three options.
Right. Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers, I like Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know if we saw his last game or not either. When what was that, last week? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So, some other things that I was thinking about, and Herman and I were talking about this earlier, is, switching to a totally different subject here, is we're kind of curious on how people collect teams and players, and would like to see some comments about that. For me, I collect. Of course, I'm an NASCAR guy. I collect a bunch of different drivers. Um, and I try to get the rookie cards of all the drivers. That's one of my main focuses. I try. These days you can't get all the cards. There's no way. You just can't do it. So, for me, it's more or less trying to get rookie cards and then getting some other key cards and things like that. What do you guys think about that?
Well, what's the great line? Collect how you want to collect.
It seems to be the big tagline.
As Brad, who used to co-host with us, used to say, "You do you, boo."
Mm-hmm.
You collect however you want to collect, and whether it's teams like Herman does the Braves, or Freddie Freeman especially, or Dale Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
or me, that I don't really collect per se. But when I see things like people from my high school, there are two people from my high school in the major league, and when I see Harrison Bader and Pedro Alvarez in the dime box or the quarter box, I just buy the cards because I don't care. And then then when I sold my inventory, I'll just buy them back. That's no big deal. But people collect, and they collect, and they collect, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And whether you collect teams, whether you collect players, whether you collect sets, what you do is up to you. And if you're wealthy or you've got extra cash and you collect high-end vintage cards or high-end new cards, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do. I do a little bit of course, I do the flagship top set every year. That's just something I do. But outside of that, I don't really go after. I don't keep any rookie cards, regardless of who they are, unless it's a Braves rookie card. I move it and pick up something that I want to keep, which is any Braves cards, and in particularly like Freeman's and Murphy's, as Rich said. And I know some people collect the player and they just want one of each card and one and done. And some people collect and they'll just take anything and everything they can get. And that's kind of the way I am with the Murphys and Freemans. Of course, I want to try to get one of each, one that I can afford to get. But if I run across a double and it's cheap enough, or somebody sends it to me, I'm going to put it in the box for the rest of them, or put it in the binder wherever it goes. So,
yeah.
we have Bo in the audience, and his goal, and this is actually a collection, is 1 million Cubs cards, and he's about 130,000 away. And granted, not all of them are going to be granted, most of them are not going to be different.
No. Well, I think he said one time that there was only like 200 something thousand total different Cubs cards. So,
right.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of doubles. Sal Dougie, he's collecting unique Milwaukee Brewers cards. He's up to 3,600. That's impressive.
That's
unique. And they've only been around about 50 years, so that's really not bad. I mean, granted, there were some years in the early 2000s when there were 90 brands of cards, but the Brewers weren't that good, so you were getting maybe 4 or 5, with the exception of flagship. other than parallels, but you weren't getting many Milwaukee Brewers. When they were bad, you weren't getting the Brewers cards. You'd get people like, not Ben Shields, Ben Sheets. You get people like him, but you wouldn't get, and Richie Sexton and people like that, but you weren't getting, the entire team like you would with the Yankees.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, Double D just started a player collection for the first time in decades. Mike Trout. So that's going to be a big task right there. There's a lot of Mike Trout cards, and there's a lot of high-end Mike Trout cards, but that's a worthy endeavor right there. That's pretty cool.
And there again, it just depends on how in depth you want to get into it. If you wanted to chase the low serial numbered or the 1-of-1 superfractors or anything like that, a lot of people they'll have a cutoff with, like, say, numbered out of 50.
Right.
And that's that. Most of those, depending on the player, they're in more of a reasonable price range to acquire. Then, like I said, just unless you happen up on one and get it at a good price. But then you have some that they want every card, regardless of whether it's an autograph card or a 1-of-1 or whatever. And more power to them. But my bank account ain't that deep.
Mine's not either. Now, Cooter has an interesting observation here: is full set building coming to an end? I'm a set collector. I'm old school, but the way I'm seeing it out there in the world right now, base cards are not what people want. They want to collect either teams, players, or just superstars or whatever. I'm parallels. So yeah, full set building.
I think you can almost draw a line to 1980 and before, and some people will still collect, chase the sets because that's all we had in those days were the base cards.
Mm-hmm.
But the modern sets, I know that even the 90s when the inserts began, the sets were really cheap. And if they're really cheap, there's no upward mobility, so you don't really want to get them. And, I know that, one of my discussions with Dr. Jim, I don't want you buying these large lots of cards when there's a lot of base cards in them, because it's not going to do you any good at this point. Yeah, if you like, for example, last year he bought these blaster box lots from Huggins and Scott. That was fine. He got base cards because he also ended up pulling a card that paid for the entire auction lot out of it. He got some really good Juan Soto autograph number /25. And so if you get some base cards while you're doing that and your cost is minimal per box, that's great. But when your cost on even a Prism blaster box is $35 and you're getting 30 cards and nobody wants anything but the better cards, you're going nowhere with the base cards.
That's
and
true.
Eventually you might, but right now you're not. And behind me, you can't see it, but I don't have any trouble accumulating base cards for my synagogue show or my synagogue brotherhood. I keep getting them. And it's never been an issue.
The last 4 years, the flagship sets I've built, I've got medium flat rate boxes from a guy, and I basically just paid shipping to get the cards, and I built them the complete set minus maybe 2 or 3 rookies out of that, because he was opening boxes looking for parallels, autographs, and cared nothing for the base cards, and I pay him the shipping. He sent them to me. So, of
course, I'm going to go back and tell you how I got, and I should have remembered this, how I got upstage, so to speak, at the Dallas Card Show. A content creator, James Elite Hunter, was helping a friend of his behind the table. And when I visited with him, I saw him on Sunday. He was helping out, and and the guy, because he knows he's honest and all that, was paying him well, and he gave him a couple nice cards too. But he's at the table. He had 5 or 6 52 high numbers. And I go, well, my first time, and one of them was the first time number I ever bought, Smokey Burgess, for $20 at a Willow Grove show about 1980. And I go, yeah, it's the first one I ever bought. It's not the same card, obviously, but it's the same player. And he reminded me, yeah, the first 52 high number I ever bought was Mickey Mantle. I think he did very well with it personally.
Absolutely. All right, a few comments here. Here's Dan. His 3 current football collection sets he's building right now are Antonio Gates, Steven Jackson, and Brandon Jacobs. And there's a ton of serial number memorabilia cards, game use cards, and they're affordable on ComC. So there you go. There's a plug for you guys, Rich.
I always appreciate that. I will say about Antonio Gates, he will be a Hall of Famer. That is a very safe card to buy. And Brandon Jacobs was a key running back for 2 Super Bowl teams. So, as a Giants fan, I was kind of happy. I always like Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah, Rich is collecting Tony Gwynn player year cards and Manny Machado numbered cards. And let's see, Double D trying to get all his gold numbered to the year. That's going to be a lofty task. Mark, he collects Denver Broncos. But there's so many cards these days. He concentrates on Bronco Hall of Famers. You see, that's a nice way to do it. You can't get all of them, but at least get the good ones. Rob, he's just collecting Benjamins.
More money, more problems.
Yeah. I wish I could collect some Benjamins. Dan, he bought 2 complete sets tonight on eBay. Was super happy with the price. That's cool. Collector's Dream. I used to be a set collector, but not anymore. He agrees with Rich. Yeah, and I agree with you too, Rich. I think that's kind of the dividing line. I think more of us old school guys are still set builders. And, even right now, I bought some 2022 Prism Racing. It's only a 100-card set, but the first thing I'm thinking about is how many sets can I get out of these boxes that I bought? So that's my mentality.
Well, I will say this as far as for set collecting, you have sets like Heritage that it makes it a little more difficult with the short prints they do.
Yep.
So I'm down, even like for last year's set, the 72 design, I'm down to 27 cards left, and they're all in high numbers. So
that's cool.
Here I go with another 72 design, chasing high numbers to finish.
Heritage has always been the exception to the rule. It's always been a set collector's product.
Yep.
That and flagship tops are still set collectors, products. The thing with flagship tops or base tops is they usually come up with a factory set, but the other stuff, you get enough stuff. You get an insert or 2 in every pack. You get the autograph, you get the relic, you get some tough numbered cards. You pulled the right ones, you've done very well. So that's where Topps is the Topps flagship is sort of a double win for collectors too.
Mm-hmm.
And Heritage is the same way because you get the 6 short prints in a hobby box. You get the relic, you get the inserts. And I was talking to somebody, I've talked about the Secret Santa, the triple cards pull down. Well, I saw the guy who I did the Secret Santa for, he and his kid, I gave them a box. They saved the Heritage box that I gave them as their Secret Santa actually for Christmas Day. They got the case hit.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So he was very happy, and I was, okay, good for you.
So here we go. Got a couple more comments. Fitz Cards, he says he's ditching his sets he's had for over 40 years. He used to buy only wax or sets. Now he buys graded singles. I buy graded singles too, but I make sets out of them.
Well, you also have one of the most fun graded collections I know of.
Thank you.
You can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that some other time. That's my sophomoric slabs. Let's see, Mad City Brew. He heard you can get base cards at Goodwill. So I want in on that action. I know that like Bo and some other folks are doing that. I want in on some of that action. I think it'd be fun. Gates was a monster, yes. DR Brandon Jones was a SIU Saluki, and he watched him when he went to school there. I think Steven Jackson has Hall of Fame shot too. Double D fits card, okay. And all right, we're just kind of finishing up on the comments here because we're actually just a little bit over on our hour.
True overtime.
Yeah, this is Hobby Hotline overtime. Baseball card curmudgeon, what's up? Hey, good to see you. And we have Facebook user. Hi guys. Hey,
Hi
Facebook
guys.
user.
Hi guys. Okay, that reminds me of the old Chuck McCann commercial from way back in the day when he's looking in the mirror, and I think it's one of these products, to whether it's shaving cream or whether it's like an aftershave, and he looks himself in the mirror and says, "Hi guy."
I vaguely remember that.
He also hosted a kid show, I believe, on Channel 5 back in the day in New York. It was. I remember Chuck McCann for my whole life.
Well, fellas, I think it may be time to wrap the show up. You guys have anything you want to say? Where you can be found on social media, anything like that?
Home. No, it's just good to see everybody again. It's been a while. I enjoyed it. And
glad to have you back, Herman. Glad to see you. This Saturday, we're going to have on the 21st, we're going to have Danny Black, Erica Massenberg, and Adam Palmer. And that show will be on the Bench Clear Media channel. So watch that show. As for me, you can watch me and Val and Jason on NASCAR Radio. So I think that's about it. So if you guys don't have anything else, I think that we'll call it a night. And thanks everybody. Thanks all the comments and everything from everybody. We really appreciate that. And we love all you guys.
Hit the thumbs up and hit that outro.
Exactly. let me find the outro real quick and I will hit it.